The Starfleet life with the USS Dauntless. Are you brave enough to be a Starfleet officer? Do you have what it takes? Greetings, I'm Admiral Swart, Commanding Officer USS Dauntless, and this is the briefing with the Admiral for stardate -269967.1. I am the Admiral in question, and today we're going to be talking about respect. From a bunch of different points of view. But before we get on to today's topic, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do, as we typically do. First, I want to talk about recording times and comments. So recording times are typically on a Tuesday at 12:30 in the afternoon, South African Standard Time, which is admittedly an awkward time, middle of the day on a Tuesday. Most people are at work, but those of you who have flexible schedules are welcome to join us. If you are an active duty member of the crew, please join us in Discord in the screening room channel. There we can have the live official chat. If you are not an active duty member of the crew, you're welcome to join us on YouTube. We will do our best to stream directly there every week. We had a little trouble with the stream this afternoon, and it's not showing up correctly on my dashboard, so I can't actually see if anybody is dropping any comments in there. But if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the comments on YouTube or Facebook, where this will be uploaded later, and I'll do my best to come back to you later about those things. If you are in the live chat, if you're here in the screening room, an active duty member of the crew, and you have a question or a comment that you'd like me to see, please make sure that you @tag me in your comment, because when I get to the Q&A section at the end, I'm going to be scrolling back up through the chat, and although there's often a very lively chatter, which is great, we encourage that, I can't read every single message because not all of it is for me. So if you want to make sure that I see a question or a comment, please @tag me so that it's highlighted on my screen when I go back and search for it. There we go. Captain von Krunen has tagged me in a testing message. I appreciate that. Thank you. But we will get to questions in comments at the end. All right. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about respect, specifically as it applies to the context of the USS Dauntless. But I think that as a general concept, it applies to every aspect of your life, especially when it comes to social interactions with other people. If the Dauntless is your only sphere of social interactions, then maybe you need to rethink your decisions about life. But hopefully the Dauntless is one of your more important social interaction spheres, as it is mine. So let's get to that. So what is respect? So respect, at least in the context of the Dauntless, is the consistent demonstration of courtesy, consideration, and professionalism towards all individuals, regardless of rank or background. And it means valuing each person's contributions, upholding the principles of Starfleet, and conducting oneself with integrity in all interactions. So yeah, okay, there's a lot to unpack there. So let's spend some time doing exactly that. So first I want to harp on one aspect there. So it's very important that respect should be given to all members of the crew, regardless of rank, position, or background. So we have rank systems. Oh, we neglected to do the recap. Let's just do that quickly before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So what is the Dauntless? Who are we? Why are we here? The USS Dauntless is we're a future-focused advocacy and action group, which is at its core a Star Trek fan club. Why Star Trek? Because Star Trek is a fictional franchise that depicts an optimistic future of humankind, in which most of the problems that we face today, things like crime, disease, poverty, war, have largely, if not entirely, been eradicated on Earth, if not in the entire galaxy. And we think that not only does that sound like a nice thing, but also that it's something that is eminently achievable. So we as a group, as a community, as an ideological movement, try to do what we can to advance our present day society towards that optimistic future one. In whatever way is possible, whether that is simply promoting this vision of a future to other people through getting other people interested in Star Trek, or whether it means actually knuckling down and doing the work and shedding literal blood, sweat, and tears in service of our fellow human beings. those are the things that we do in order to bring our society towards that optimistic future. Now, we are inspired in doing so by Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, but no, that is our purpose. What is the Dauntless? The Dauntless is a chapter of Starfleet, the International Star Trek Fan Association Incorporated, which is the largest Star Trek fan club in the world. It's a fan-run organization. We are not sanctioned by Paramount or any of the franchise holders of Star Trek. We are just a very large group of interested individuals who have banded together in this common cause. Thousands of individuals, hundreds of chapters across dozens of countries around the world. And the USS Dauntless is one such chapter. Starfleet International is what we call a Starfleet style organization, which means that we have modeled ourselves on the fictional Starfleet, which is the organization within the Star Trek franchise, which is the exploratory and military organization belonging to the future government of the United Federation of Planets. Now, the real Starfleet, Starfleet International, is neither an exploratory service nor a military service, but we have been inspired by their ideals, and so we work to emulate them in many different ways. And some of those ways are superficial, in that we structure ourselves in the same way that they do. We draw inspiration from their usage of military style ranks and titles. We also emulate their uniforms. And one of the ways we emulate them is that our individual chapters, which are local groups of members in cities around the world, are designated starships. Now, these are not actual starships. That's just a metaphor. The starship is not a vessel built of duratanium hull plating. It is an idea. It's an ideological framework that binds the members of that chapter together. So the chapter is not, the starship is not a ship. The starship is the crew. Now, within that structure of ranks and titles, we earn ranks through doing real things in the real world. The ranks are not fictional, but they are ceremonial, they're honorary, and they don't mean the same thing as the equivalent military ranks. So although my rank is Admiral, I'm not the same as an Admiral in the Navy, or the work involved is very different. The legal rights are very different. I have no legal rights to issue orders to anybody under my command. It's just not, that's not just not how it works. The fact that I have earned the rank of Admiral is a recognition of my years of service to the organization, and it's something that I'm very proud of. But rank doesn't work the same way in Starfleet International as it does in the military, even though they are similar ideas. So we are, the USS Dauntless is an online group principally, but we are based physically in Cape Town, South Africa, which is where most of our members are, but we have other members in other places around the world, particularly in Region 8, which is what Starfleet International designates Africa and the Middle East, but also other places overseas. So that is what the USS Dauntless is. That's what Starfleet International is. That's who we are and why we are here. So I'm just going to get rid of this because we're not going to need this for the rest of the presentation. So we're talking about respect within the context of this organization that we are, the USS Dauntless. So when we're talking about rank and position and background, that's what we're talking about. Just because somebody has spent more time in the organization and has earned a higher rank doesn't mean that everybody else is less entitled to respect than you are. Basic human respect is equally applicable to everyone. That said, one of the things about rank is that it is something of a codification of professional reputation. Now, I've done a few of these presentations talking about managing and developing and reinstating a professional reputation. And respect and reputation kind of go hand in hand. If you have developed a good reputation, then hopefully that reputation precedes you, and with it, a certain measure of respect. So everybody is entitled to a basic level of respect. Perhaps it's fair to say that some people deserve more respect than others. It's easy to say that when I'm the one that's got the highest rank, and maybe that's, take that as a pinch of salt. But it seems to me that people who have earned the privilege of carrying a higher rank than others perhaps should be recognized as having done so, because that is what they've done. They've put in that work, and the rank is a codification of the work that they have done. But let's go into a bit more detail about all of those things. So first, let's talk about how the concept of respect aligns with the values of Starfleet. One of the important values of Starfleet is one that's inherited from the fictional race of aliens called the Vulcans. In Star Trek, the Vulcans are a race of essentially stoics. These are people who eschew emotional irrationality in favor of an idealized form of logic. And they have a philosophical ideal called IDIC, infinite diversity in infinite combinations. And this is essentially a value that we have adopted pretty much wholesale, in which we agree that diversity in itself is a good thing, something to be explored and studied and welcomed. And the more diversity you have within a given group, the better, because that allows us access to all kinds of diverse abilities, diverse perspectives, and diversity just generally is a good thing. So let's define that. Etic is a Vulcan philosophy that celebrates the strength found in diversity and strength. Now, to be fair, diversity isn't always strength, but it can be strength if utilized correctly. Etic is a core Starfleet value, not only the fictional Starfleet, but also Starfleet International. It's part of our DNA. It's written into our very organization. From the very beginning, the fictional Star Trek has depicted people of diverse backgrounds and capabilities serving together on a team towards a common goal. Diversity is an important part of what makes Star Trek and Starfleet Starfleet. It's essential to Starfleet's mission of exploration. So exploring and understanding and utilizing not only the diversity that already exists within us, but also looking outwards to the diversity of other groups, other people, other places, and other things, and understanding how that can foster cooperation across cultures. It also means respecting individual differences. So every crew member has unique skills and experiences and perspectives that can contribute to the successes of the USS Dauntless. Everybody brings their own skill set, their own background, their own experiences to the table. So when we're working and collaborating on a mission, everybody brings something unique to that experience and can contribute based on what they have to offer. We also try to build an inclusive environment. Respecting diversity means ensuring that all members feel valued, included, and empowered to contribute. This is no small thing. We want to make sure that everybody feels like they are welcome here on the Dauntless. Now, on the Dauntless, we have shifted our focus over the last year or so in a more high achieving direction. We, as the Dauntless, have worked and continue to work to build a reputation within Starfleet as the chapter that doesn't mess around. We work hard, we play hard, we don't mess around. And so we have worked to foster an atmosphere of being the best of the best, of being the elite of Starfleet. And while it's true that not everybody feels that they are able to keep up with pace of life here on the Dauntless. And when that happens, there are plenty of other chapters that they are welcome to serve on. One of our daughter chapters, the Charlton Station, based in Johannesburg, South Africa, so just around the corner, geographically speaking, has a very different way of being a Starfleet chapter. And a lot of our members have found a more comfortable space there where they can live out their Starfleet life and Starfleet career in a way that is perhaps less pressurized than here on the Dauntless. That said, we invite everybody who feels like they have the fortitude, the strength, and the desire to push themselves towards that optimistic future, to help us in our mission, to join our ranks and do what they can do, what they need to do to excel and to succeed. So everybody is welcome to make that effort, to make that attempt, and to join us in our mission. And we have to make sure that everybody feels welcome in doing so. We also have, yes, as I mentioned, strength through diversity. So by embracing EDIC, by embracing infinite diversity and infinite combinations, we recognize that differences make us stronger. Where one person is weak, another person might be strong. And so we as a collective are stronger as a result. And fostering teamwork and innovation and personal growth helps us all to grow stronger together. So let's talk about respect and professionalism. So again, I've done several of these videos about the concept of professionalism and professional reputation, but respect is kind of the core concept, and it's the social currency that works within the framework of what a reputation is and how we can negotiate between ourselves and between each other, um, how to navigate our respective reputations. So by engendering respect, by being the kind of person that other people might want to respect, we can earn the respect of others. So respect is is a difficult thing. While everybody's entitled to a basic degree of respect, we can respect that somebody has life, has volition, has agency, and has the right to be here. Um, those of us who have spent our lives or dedicated our lives towards improving ourselves through our philosophy of mission readiness have done so with the, at least partially, with the intent of earning the respect of others by making ourselves a better version of ourselves in order to be worthy of that respect. And there are a few just day-to-day things that we can do in order to support that. So one of those is physical appearance. So maintaining a clean and professional appearance. So adhering to uniform guidelines. So we have military-style uniforms, specifically inspired by those of Star Trek. Here on the Dauntless, we use the 2373 set of uniforms as depicted in Star Trek First Contact and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I'm wearing one right now. This is our Class B uniform. I've done a few videos on uniforms, so if you'd like to know more about that, please go back into the archives and look up one of those. But making sure that our uniforms are properly presented, that they are correct and accurate, they display the correct insignia and color codes, which all have meaning, they all represent different aspects of our life here on the Dauntless. That is a way that we can show respect to our crew members by making sure that we are properly dressed and communicating the correct information about ourselves. And also by displaying that about ourselves, we can become worthy of the respect of our colleagues. Here in the Dauntless, again, we are not a military organization, but we have, via the fictional Starfleet, we've inherited a certain number of military style protocols. So with rank, for example, comes forms of address. I'm an admiral, so it is therefore appropriate to address me as admiral. Members who have a lower rank than me are welcome to address me as sir if they see so fit. But as a commissioned officer, I have the right to choose my form of address, and the form of address that I choose is my rank. That is admiral. So that is what it's appropriate to call me. Every other commissioned officer on board has the right to choose their form of address if they would prefer to be addressed by their rank or by their family name. Those are both viable options. Um, Enlisted personnel should also be addressed properly, either by their rank or by their last name, preferably by their rank. That's just how it works within the military protocol. By addressing somebody properly through their proper form of address, that is how we demonstrate respect to each other. Further than just the form of address, general communication, we can demonstrate respect for one another by being polite, by being conversational and engaging with others, not just lurking in the chat and waiting for other people to say the things that need to be said. But if we actually make a conscious effort to engage in the conversation, even if it's if you feel like your contribution isn't necessarily notable or particularly interesting, just the fact that you're saying something shows everybody that you are awake, that you're in the room, and that you're actively engaging in the conversation. You don't need to worry too much about the actual content of your contribution as long as you're making a contribution. That's what people want to see. A great example of this is our morning stand-ups, which is a tradition founded, I believe it was by Master Chief Kotzer. So in the bridge channel here on the Discord, some of us every morning will post a brief text, sort of a good morning message, and then a summary of what it is that we planned to do for the day, whatever challenges we're expecting to face, whatever we're looking forward to, that kind of thing. It's just as a way of keeping each other in the loop of what's going on in each other's lives. And I would like to invite everybody to participate in that. It's not mandatory. You don't have to do that. But the more of us that do that, the more engaged everybody becomes, and the more that we can see what's going on in your life. Even if your life is boring, even if your plan for today is to spend the entire day playing video games or sitting on your couch, that's still interesting for the rest of us to know. We want to know that about who you are and what's going on in your life. So please, I invite you to participate in that if you want to. Further to that is giving feedback. So when we are having an interaction with somebody, if something has happened and you need to give feedback to somebody, there are essentially two different kinds of feedback. One is positive, one is negative, and we would prefer that those things be handled in different ways, again, out of respect. So positive feedback should be loud and proud so that everybody can see it, nice and transparent. Negative or constructive feedback should be quiet and discreet, so that only the person who needs to hear it is facing that information, so that as to avoid embarrassment. So the axiom there is praise in public, critique in private. Um, Another very important aspect of showing respect to your colleagues is is through commitment and responsibility. So when making a commitment to perform a given task or to take responsibility for a specific aspect of life here on the Dauntless, following through on that commitment is very, very important in terms of showing respect to your colleagues and earning their respect in return. Now, when I say you've committed to something, I'm talking about something like a duty station. If you have signed up for a duty station, which is one of the many positions on board that carry actual predefined deliverables, or even if you are a standard position holder who's just taken on some projects, the fact that you've made a commitment to your crew mates to take control of that issue is a sign of respect. But then if you fail to live up to what you've committed, that would be disrespectful. So please make sure that you honor your commitments. And honoring your commitments doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do all the work all the time. It just means that you have to make sure that what you've said would happen, whether that means roping in more people to join you on your project team, or if you absolutely can't do it, letting the relevant stakeholders know that you can't complete the project on time. That's it's better than nothing. But just walking away from a project and pretending that nothing ever happened, that's not a respectful way to carry yourself in the world. Which brings us to ethical conduct. So that's maintaining integrity and treating everyone equally and avoiding inappropriate situations. So there's a bundle of concepts wrapped up in that aspect. Ethics of Starfleet. I mean, we've discussed that in several previous videos, but essentially, fair play is the Starfleet way. When engaging in, even if it's friendly competitive activities, we want to make sure that we're adhering to the rules in spirit, in addition to in the letter of the law. We want to make sure that we are treating people fairly and the way that they deserve to be treated. And we want to avoid any situations that might appear to be inappropriate, especially when it comes to dealing with minors. Although we don't currently have any minors on board, we call them cadets here in the Dauntless. That's members under the age of 18. We especially want to avoid any kinds of situations that might seem inappropriate to outside observers, even if the interaction is the most innocent thing in the world. So making sure that everything is done above board is quite important. That's how you show, again, respect to each other. Also exercising financial responsibility. So when we're going out together, we're grabbing a meal together, we want to make sure that the bill is split fairly, make sure that the tipping protocols are followed. We want to make sure that the staff that are at the various establishments that we visit are properly treated by us, and especially when it comes to tipping, which is simply a reality of social life here in South Africa. Another important aspect there is showing respect in conflict resolution. And this can be quite challenging because when you have conflict, that is when emotions tend to get charged. That's when you tend to not feel especially respectful of somebody who you feel might have crossed you. But that's when it becomes even more important to exercise restraint and to demonstrate proper respectful behavior. So respect is woven throughout this presentation. A brief section on handling disagreements or conflicts follows. So firstly, when you have a conflict with somebody, you want to be addressing the issues directly but professionally. So it doesn't hurt to grab somebody out from the group and say, hey, listen, man, how dare you talk to me like that? That's not productive. That's not how we do things. But if you have a concern with somebody, bringing your concern first to the person in question and say, remember that interaction that we had a moment ago? I felt like we could have done that differently. Here's what I would have liked to have seen happen there. That would be the first step. If that doesn't pan out, the next step would be to then escalate it up the chain of command. So if you have an issue with another member of your department, escalating that to your department head and letting them know that there is a situation afoot that needs to be addressed, your department head can then decide how to handle that. Perhaps that can be handled directly with the department head and they themselves are able to address the question. If the department head is either involved in the interaction or is unable to resolve it, then it would then escalate up the chain of command. So the next one to be involved would be the executive officer and then the commanding officer. And if I'm not able to handle it, we'll pass it up to the regional coordinator, who is also me. So if I'm not able to handle it again, then we could escalate it even further up the chain. But dispute resolution is a particularly challenging aspect of maintaining a respectful attitude, because if everybody is respectful and everybody is polite and everybody does their best to keep emotion out of a negative interaction, you have a much better chance of resolving that interaction in a way that is satisfactory and positive for everybody involved. If we can resolve a situation of conflict in a way that everybody feels like they are being properly respected, then once it's dealt with, it just kind of goes away. There's no emotional baggage, there's no resentment, there's no hard feelings that lead to people storming off the ship or anything like that. We can all just get on with our day. So respect is the key to maintaining a positive outcome to what can be a negative situation. Another important aspect of respectful dealing with people is when it comes to digital communication. So the Dauntless is principally an online organization. We do most of our communication online via text. Some of us do some voice and some video, but most of our interactions are via text. And there's one thing that I think we all know almost intuitively at this point, is that communicating via text can be troublesome in that it can incorrectly convey our intentions, especially when it comes to topics that are emotionally charged. So it's important, while attempting to be respectful, to bear in mind that what you say, especially via text, can be taken the wrong way, and you want to take measures to ensure that your intent and the emotional context of what you're trying to convey is properly conveyed. And I know it's not popular to say this, but frankly, I think the use of emojis is a great way of doing this. If you choose your emojis correctly, although they're not typically used for formal speech, but in casual conversation, emojis are perfectly acceptable. And if you choose the right emojis, that is almost the text equivalent of nonverbal communication, of things like facial expressions and body language. Choosing the right emojis can help to convey a message and put it in its proper emotional context if you're savvy about choosing them. I say this being a person who tends not to be very good at choosing the right emojis, but I'm aware that it's a problem and I'm working on it. So let's be more specific about that. So we want to avoid curt or unclear or overly casual messaging in formal settings. So a lot of the conversation that we have here on the Dauntless happens in a pretty informal way. Even on the bridge, a certain level of casual banter is accepted, but a lot of our interactions do have a more formal nature to them when we're submitting reports, for example, or when we're issuing, we use the term orders, but they're not orders in a legal sense. That's just sort of a thematic aspect to it. So when I'm issuing a directive to a member of the crew, which is not to be taken as an order, it's more like a request, that should be done in a formal way and should not involve any unnecessary emotional context. But I should also be mindful that formality can come across as being curt or rude, so I have to frame those words carefully too. Another tool that's useful for this, now that it occurs to me, is in addition to using the appropriate emojis, especially when it comes to formal communication, is AI. Things like ChatGPT, Copilot, they can help you format a message that you might be concerned could come across the wrong way. If you run your text through a GPT chat filter, they can help you choose the right words and set the correct tone. They're quite good at doing that kind of thing, even relatively rudimentary ones. So yeah, you want to be mindful of your tone in your text-based communications. You want to use appropriate channels for discussions and concerns. This is something that speaking of AI, our EMH, which is an AI bot that lives here on Discord, is terrible at doing. He is very bad, although I admit he's getting better at it. Currently, he is very bad at sensing what the tone of a given conversation is, and he jumps in inappropriately, issuing orders and directives when they are not appropriate to the context. So we have a variety of different channels here on Discord, many of which are context specific. They relate to a particular topic. And we want to make sure that when we are posting on a specific topic, we want to post it in the right place for a few reasons. One, we don't want to disrupt the conversation that might be happening on a different topic, because then that throws everybody in that channel off. And two, we want to make sure that people who are interested in the thing you want to say know where to go to find it, because it has been properly categorized. And if at any point anyone's uncertain about what the topic of a given channel is, please ask. Somebody will be able to give you that answer, probably me. Um, and then also, again, we want to make sure that we're escalating issues properly rather than by bypassing the chain of command. So if you have an issue with another member of your department, it's best to take it to your department head first. Don't escalate it straight to the CO or to the regional coordinator or even to the Inspector General Staff Lead. It's best to start at the appropriate level and then work your way up accordingly. Um, so I want to emphasize that respectful behavior contributes to a positive and effective crew environment. So the more respectful you are to the people around you by doing all the things that I've just described, the more you will earn the respect of the people around you, and everybody will have a better time of it because we'll all be able to contribute to this community endeavor more effectively in that kind of context. I also want to talk about how mission readiness relates to the concept of respect. So mission readiness is our endeavor to make ourselves the best possible version of ourselves. Essentially, it's our metaphor for what's the word, self-improvement, making ourselves better in all ways, mentally, physically, emotionally. The harder we work to improve ourselves, the better we can become as human beings, as staff lead officers, and the more effective we can become in the world. And when it comes to respect, that is equally true. So by engaging in mission readiness activities, you can actually make yourself physically, mentally, and socially um, a more respectable person. What do I mean by that? So let's talk about the three aspects there. So physically, by becoming stronger, faster, and more resilient, you will earn the respect of your colleagues because you will be able to do more things with respect to them. Mentally, by becoming better informed, more skilled, and more resourceful, you will again earn the respect of your colleagues. And emotionally, by becoming more courageous, capable, and reliable, people around you will notice and they will respect you accordingly. Because we want to be leading by example, not only in our duties and the execution of our jobs here aboard the Dauntless and other aspects of our lives, but in every aspect of our life. So that's in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions, in our social interactions. We want to be leading by example and being the best possible version of ourselves at all times. All right, so I mentioned building a professional reputation, and I want to just explore a little bit how respect relates to that specifically. So a good reputation is built on trust and respect. So when people know that you are reliable, they know they can count on you to do a certain thing, they will trust in you, and trust and respect go hand in hand. They're almost inseparable. It's very difficult to trust somebody that you don't respect, and it's very difficult to respect somebody that you don't trust. So if you behave in a way that is both trustworthy and respectful, then other people will learn to trust and respect you. Showing respect also contributes to building a positive reputation within the USS Dauntless. So although we all have personal reputations in every social aspect of our lives, your reputation within the Dauntless also matters, because the better your reputation here, which is codified by things like rank and title, building the better reputation you have here, the more it'll open doors for you with regards to advancement opportunities, things like awards, recognition, and opening up more avenues for you to take on more meaningful responsibility. Most of the duty stations that people will start off on would have a relatively limited sphere of influence. Something like a communications operator has a very narrow scope of influence in the world, but the more you build up a reputation, the more people will be willing and will want to offer you more responsibility. More responsibility means even more opportunity to earn respect and to show respect to your crew members by honoring the commitments that you've made. And you see how that feedback cycle works. You're building that reputation through being respectful. But it's also important to note that building a strong reputation requires consistency, consistent effort, and integrity. So acting with the best of integrity within an ethical framework, and also doing so consistently over time, that is how you learn to, that is how you build a reputation. That is how people will learn to trust and respect you. So we've got some practical ways of building reputation that also demonstrates respect. So one of them is showing up and being reliable. So if somebody invites you to an event and you said that you're going to come, being there, show up. Perhaps you're not feeling well that day. Perhaps things have gotten a little complicated at home. Perhaps you're having some trouble with transport. All of those things are mitigating factors. But if you do your best to show up to the mission that you said you were going to show up to, people will respect you for that. Especially when it comes to priority one missions, which of course are our most important missions here on the Dauntless. They are mandatory for all active duty personnel. And all we ask is that you show up. You don't have to be on your having your best day ever. You don't, we'd rather you have combed your hair and had a shower. But even if you're having a bad hair day, that's fine. We would rather have you there on a bad hair day than not have you there at all. Being an active communicator and keeping people informed is also very important. So being an active communicator, not only in a practical sense, and that is making sure that you're keeping everybody up in the loop with regards to your various project teams, but also just being a good social communicator on board. Participating in that daily stand-up in the morning, having chats when you're at missions, chiming in on the mission chat whenever you're joining one of our screenings or something like that. All of those things are beneficial. And I know that I do this too. I also tend to keep relatively quiet in online missions, but I make an effort, and I hope that you would too. You also want to take responsibility and help others. So taking on responsibility either within the context of the Dauntless, which means taking on things like duty stations, or just generally in life, which taking on projects and people, helping people is going to earn you respect, and it's going to build your reputation. Being professional in appearance and conduct. I keep harping on this because it's very important. Being professional in your appearance, that's being well groomed, being properly dressed in your correct and accurate uniform. That demonstrates your respect to other people and will also earn you their respect. Asking for help is actually quite important. It seems counterintuitive. You might think that asking for help might make you seem weak and uninformed, but on the contrary, what it shows people around you is that you are determined to learn how to do a thing, even if that means asking somebody else who already knows how to do it. Learning how to do it is what you want to be doing. You want to be improving yourself, getting better at doing things. So if you don't currently possess the relevant skills, or you aren't currently capable of doing a thing that you need to do, asking somebody to help you do it is the best possible outcome, and people will respect you for it. And then the other end of that sort of process is becoming an expert and sharing your knowledge with others. Be the person that other people ask for help. Being on either end of that interaction will make each participant in that interaction trust and respect the other person more. And there's the flip side of this coin, which is that acting in a disrespectful way can damage your reputation and negatively impact your standing. If people think that you don't show respect to other people, they will lose respect for you. So you want to be making sure that you're doing all of those things that I just mentioned, and anything else that happens to improve people's perception of you. This idea that's quite popular with a lot of people these days is going through life with the attitude of, I don't care what people think of me, frankly, is an antisocial way of living in the world. If you want to function with any kind of social construct, which is whether it's the Dauntless, whether it's the company that you work for, whether it's your family or society at large, it matters what people think of you, because if they respect you, then they are more likely to trust you with things, and trust and respect go hand in hand, and they lead to all kinds of interesting things, as we've already enumerated. So I've spoken about rank a little bit, and I just want to touch on that in a bit more detail. So rank, again, within the Starfleet context, indicates so it's not ranked like in the military. Again, it is something that is awarded to you on the basis of time served. Not only time, but effort given over time. I, again, carry the rank of Admiral, which is something that it took me about 20 years to earn. Ideally, that is what it should take. It should take a long time to earn something as high as the rank of Admiral. But even if you are only an ensign, ensign might be a relatively junior rank, but you still had to earn that rank. You don't just get given the rank of ensign. It's something that you had to work towards, and so you are worthy of respect for the rank that you have earned. Now, all members are expected to treat each other with respect, regardless of our respective rank and position. Again, that basic human respect should be applied to everybody. But there, again, are many things you can do to diminish the respect that people have for you, and also the things that you can do to enhance the respect that people have for you. And rank might be one of the ways that codify the activity that leads to a greater form of respect. Rank and promotions are recognition of service and effort, and that respect is a core component of being a Starfleet officer, regardless of rank. So showing respect for somebody of a higher rank is a demonstration of professional courtesy, because you presumably would aspire to holding that higher rank at some point in your future career. And I imagine that you would want to be treated with the appropriate respect when you get to that higher rank. So by treating people who have that higher rank than you now with the respect that they deserve, would hopefully then reflect back on you when the day comes that you putting that third or fourth or fifth pip on your collar. Right. Related but not the same as rank is the chain of command. So we've spoken about the chain of command a couple of times already, but we haven't really explained what it means. Chain of command is when we're talking about members who report to other people. Now I've done one of these briefing videos on the reporting chain within the Dauntless, and that is essentially the chain of command. When you submit a report to somebody, that person is in command of you. That means that they are responsible for looking after the things that you are doing. If you are a standard position holder, that means you have no predefined responsibilities other than just being a member of the crew. That's fine. You submit your report to your department head. Your department head is above you in the chain of command. If you are a duty station holder, again, your department head is above you in the chain of command, but you have a specific set of duties, and your department head is responsible for making sure that the duties you've committed to doing actually get done. Because if you're not able to do them, then your department head is the one who has to do them. So you see, there's the chain. So it goes from you, a basic member, up to duties, up to department head, and then if the department head is unable to see that those duties are done, that then passes up to the executive officer, the next link in the chain, then to the commanding officer, then to the regional coordinator, all the way up to the commander Starfleet. That is the chain of command. Now, while rank in the military is deeply embedded within the concept of a chain of command, they are not quite the same thing here. Typically, people who are higher up in the chain of command in Starfleet International will have higher ranks, and some links in that chain are linked to specific rank promotions. For example, the Commander Starfleet, when you're appointed to that position, you are automatically promoted to the rank of Fleet Admiral. It's the only way to obtain that rank, and that's just how that is. That is the highest possible rank. Likewise, with the position of Chapter Commanding Officer, when you are appointed to that position, you earn an automatic promotion to the rank of Captain, but that's not the only way of earning that rank. And although I've been a Chapter Commanding Officer for, wow, it's 21 years. This is the no, it's not quite. I haven't been CEO for 21 years, but the Dauntless is 21 years old this year, and I've been her CEO for 18 of those years. So I started off as a captain, and I have received multiple promotions since then. But the rank of admiral doesn't necessarily relate to the position of commanding officer. So respecting the chain of command allows for clear communication and efficient decision making. When something is happening at the sphere of influence for the appropriate person, taking it to the appropriate authority for that decision is what matters. So if something is happening within your department, the department head is the one who's responsible for making that decision. If the department head feels like they can't make that decision on their own, they can then seek assistance from somebody higher up on the chain. But really, it's the department head's responsibility to figure that out within the chapters, within the department context. It's also important to follow the chain of command when escalating concerns or making reports. We've spoken about this already. But following the chain of command ultimately demonstrates respect for the time and energy of others, and that that can save resources by ensuring that issues are received at the appropriate level. So bringing, for example, a departmental issue to the regional coordinator is not an efficient use of anybody's time, because the regional coordinator has no direct influence in what happens at your chapter department level. He's going to have to then reach out to the CO, who's then going to have to get in touch with the department head, who is actually the person that should have heard about that issue to begin with. Taking it directly to the department head saves everybody's time and effort and doesn't involve people who aren't frankly involved in that situation. So making sure that you're escalating things to the appropriate point in the chain of command, and only if it cannot be handled at that level would we then escalate it up to the higher chain of command. That makes sure that everybody's focusing on the duties that are relevant to them and not spending time on things that aren't in their specific purview. Um, I'd also like to touch on respect and civilian outreach. So, civilian outreach is part of our communications department mission, which is to bring the message of Star Trek to the general public. It also has a recruiting component by uh, through our public outreach efforts, we are also able to reach out to and get in touch with other Star Trek fans who might be interested in joining the Dauntless or Starfleet International. So, civilian outreach is a very important program. And when we're talking about civilian outreach, we're talking about the reputation not only of us as individuals, but now also the reputation of the USS Dauntless and that of Starfleet International. And that's when it becomes critical to maintain a respectful aspect. We want to be exceptionally careful about being respectful to people outside of our insular community here. If we manage to upset each other here on the Dauntless by being a little bit disrespectful here or there, we, within the confines of this structure, have the tools to be able to mitigate that situation and resolve it respectfully. But when we're dealing with the general public, we don't necessarily have the confines of that kind of a structure. So if we upset somebody in the general public, that reflects negatively not on you personally, but on the USS Dauntless and on Starfleet International, and possibly even on Star Trek fandom as a whole. So we want to do whatever we can to avoid those kinds of negative interactions. We want to make sure that people outside of our community get the best possible picture of what it's like to be here on the Dauntless, what it means to be on the Dauntless, of our values, of our value, and how important it is to all of us that we maintain this community as it is. We want to be engaging with the public respectfully, including being approachable and welcoming, especially when we're out. Typical example of this would be when we're at conventions. So if we're at a con and we're in uniform, we want to make sure that we're putting forward the best possible representation of what it means to be a Star Trek fan and being part of this fan community, as well as being the Dauntless. Somebody comes up to you and asks you a question about Star Trek. You want to do everything you can to avoid being dismissive, even if it's the 20th time that day you've been asked who your favorite captain is. You want to be respectful and kind, and bear in mind that this person that you're speaking to hasn't had that conversation with the 20 other people today. You're the first person that they've spoken to about this, and they are delighted to encounter you, even if your delight might have expired several hours ago. People are going to come up to you. They're going to make stupid jokes about your uniform. They're going to flash you a dodgy Vulcan salute that looks like this. That's going to happen. Be polite, be kind, and be respectful. And that is how we as a community will retain the respect of the general public. Even when it comes to addressing misconceptions about Star Trek, when somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, Star Trek's great. Luke Skywalker is my favorite," handling that interaction respectfully and kindly is what will help to maintain our reputation as a respectful institution. Being confrontational in that situation or in any other situations would not be beneficial. So we want to make sure that we're demonstrating respect for during civilian outreach, which helps to promote the values and philosophy of Star Trek and can lead to recruiting new members. All right, so I'd like to reiterate that respect is a core value of the USS Dauntless. Although it's not something that we talk about very often, it is encoded, it underlies all of the other values-based discussions that we have here in the briefings and in the Dauntless in general. Respect is essential. It's something that we give to each other, something that we receive from each other, and although everybody's entitled to some, we can do our best to make sure that we are deserving of more respect and offer more respect to the people who deserve it from us. Showing respect in all interactions is essential for positive and effective crew environments, not only internally, but also externally. And we want to make a conscious effort to treat each other with respect, especially when it's difficult to do so. Because acting with respect also promotes the values of Star Trek. Other people see us doing that, and that reflects positively on all of us. All right, it's time for questions and comments. Let's see. We've got a very active chat, but we've had a few come through. Let's go. All right, there we go. That's Captain Van Kernen's test message. Thank you for that again. All right, Commander Shamali says, all Starfleet officers are created equal. Some are just more equal than others. Sure, yeah. This is a complex and possibly a touchy subject. Maybe we should do another briefing when it comes to this kind of thing. But I would like to address that. So, yes, everybody starts off equal. Everybody has the same opportunities and the same place to start with and the same doors that are open. But some people make choices in their lives and in their Starfleet career to excel, to work hard, and to give back to the community in a way that in my opinion, is deserving of more respect. So somebody who has become a commissioned officer has earned the right to be called sir or be addressed by their rank, by their higher rank, by enlisted personnel, because they've done the work that is involved in becoming an officer. Now, it's not that much work, mind you. It's signing up for Staff Lead International, it's completing the officers training school exam at Staff Lead Educational Services, but that is something that most enlisted personnel haven't done, and so those who have done it are deserving of the respect that comes with that action. Another one from Commander Shamali. I usually share photos of airports when traveling. For morning stand-up, should I expand to photos of the road and places I visit on the daily? Sure, why not? Let us know where you're headed. Let us know if you're planning to meet anybody interesting, and anything that's part of your life that's going on, whatever it is that you're facing on that day, would be interesting to know about in our morning stand-up. It's just it's how we because we're not meeting each other in a physical workplace every day where we would be having that sort of face-to-face chat over a water cooler or at lunchtime or whatever it is what you might do in an office setting. We have a virtual office, as it were, here on the bridge, and it's nice to be able to share with just what's going on in each other's lives, whether it's work, whether it's family, whatever it might be. Master Chief Kotsa, question: is there a difference in the way of greeting each other in uniform versus out of uniform? That is a good question. So we we can look to let's start with looking at the military for this kind of thing. Typically speaking, when in uniform, it's appropriate to use rank all the time. You would, given the right environmental circumstances, you would stand at attention and salute a senior officer, that kind of thing. Starfleet, the fictional Starfleet is less formal when it comes to that kind of thing, but generally speaking, it's always appropriate to address somebody by their rank, even when out of uniform. But when we're talking about a, a virtually based organization like the Dauntless, our headquarters is not a physical place, it's a digital platform. When we're here, when we're logged in, when we're chatting, we're kind of always in uniform. Even if we're not physically dressed out in our actual physical uniform, we might be sitting in our pajamas. Um, if we're on the bridge, we are in uniform and on duty, and we should be treating each other as such. So that means proper forms of address, that means last names, that means ranks. And although Starfleet doesn't have a salute, if we did, we would be saluting. Well, Starfleet does kind of have a salute. It's complicated. But thank you for that question. Let's see, do we have any more? Yes, one more. Master Chief, another one. What is my perspective of respecting the Trekonomics economy? So thank you. That is a very interesting question. So the Trekonomics economy, Trekonomics is a book by somebody whose name has fallen out of my head. But in that economy, what we're effectively talking about is a reputational economy. So it's not that money doesn't exist in the Star Trek future, although several characters have literally said those words. It's just that money works very differently. It's no longer a commodity like it is now. It no longer has intrinsic value. It is simply a repository of value that can be used as a medium of exchange. So where money does exist, it's no longer the repository of wealth. What we do in the future is we work to better ourselves for the sake of ourselves and for the sake of humanity. So what that means is reputation. Your reputation is the most valuable thing that you possess, and your reputation buys you access to resources, which is why, for example, we see in Star Trek Picard, Admiral Picard, then retired, is able to retire to his large, comfortable family estate, whereas the disgraced Lieutenant Commander Raffi is forced to retire to a cabin at Vasquez Rocks, because her reputation is nowhere near as valuable as his. Also, the fact that he had an heirloom estate probably helps, but he has access to resources that she doesn't because his reputation is better than hers. So in reputational economics, that is what you want. You want to build up a reputation which then buys you access to resources. And respect is the underlying force. It's the rands and cents, as it were, of a reputational economy. So if the more respect that you earn from people, the better your reputation, the more resources you gain access to within that model. All right. I think that is it. It looks like we have finished our questions. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'd like to conclude by saying that respect is the foundation of trust, professionalism, and excellence. Without it, no crew can function and no officer can truly lead. Uphold it in every interaction, and you will not only embody the values of Starfleet, but also inspire those around you to do the same. Thank you for your time and attention. That is all for today. You are dismissed. SWAT out.